brands. You know, you've worked for very high-end brand in Hugo Boss for many years, and now with Supergroup and obviously Superdry. Just wonder how you see and have seen the appetite for international brands in China, and whether you'd like to comment on some of those challenges.
I would like to pick up where Nigel stopped. You know, it's China is an ever changing, and they go through an evolution much faster than we've gone here in Europe or even the Japanese or in America. So I think when I look at a market, you need to look at the consumer, and the consumer now, and the consumer maybe in 10 years' time. And well, we will all basically believe. We know there's more disposable income, and I'm looking particularly in the strong spending segment from the 20 to the mid 30s. But it's also a different mindset, because when we go back to the let's say around 2000, you know, so we had in the 20 to 35-year-old segment, we had the generation born in the 70s and the 60s, and they're very different from the generation now, which is nowadays probably the 90s and 80s. Yeah? So, and this also brings it back to Hugo a little bit when he mentioned about Li Ning, the sportswear brands, you know, where they face a little bit of tougher time because a different mindset where these generations are. So coming back to the 2000, when you're born in the 70s, you're a little bit trend orientated. You wanted to really have big brands, but you pretty much buy a brand and wear it for all occasions. Yeah? Then you have the 60s generation, which loved the whole functional part of it, the sportswear segment. You know, so that's where Li Ning is. They were that was it's still a huge market. You know, it was 1/3 of the Chinese market, but they were actually active wear 3 times a week, but they didn't do any sports with it. So it was really the way for them to get in international brands. And now when you go and look now today in the segment, you have the 80s, people born in the 80s, and they grew up slightly different. So they want more authenticity. For them, it's not just a brand. For them, it's also different occasions where you wear your stuff and your clothes. And then you have the very interesting generation born in the 90s. And I think they are, of course, like our generations over here in the 90s as well. They're a lot more digital, but they want to find their own style. Yeah? So what the radical change would happen is basically it's not only that you buy one brand for all occasions, it's basically you buy different brands for different occasions. And this will accelerate now with this generation which wants to find its own style in the 90s, which is born in the 90s. So that's one thing. Of course, they have more disposable income, but then the whole technology wave is, of course, a completely different animal now, because now they also, especially they don't go from infrastructure broadband, they go straight actually to the mobile phone. And this is really where the big growth comes. And I think there's different statistics, but it's approaching very, very fast 15%, you know, and that's picking back on what Hugo said, you know, on the single day this year in November, you know, in the first hour, the sales were $2 billion.